G'day frothers, welcome back to another rotary hammer review. So tonight we've got the DeWalt DCH133. So that is this pretty compact little D handle we got going on right here. And I chose this one because it's actually cheaper than the Ryobi. So I figured, let's keep the whole budget hammer theme going. Now, I wouldn't normally call DeWalt a budget tool brand, and you probably wouldn't either, but I just couldn't resist. I had to grab this one because it was so cheap, despite being a fully spec'd 26mm or like 1-inch capacity rotary hammer. So in Australia, this one sells retail for about $270 dues compared to the Ryobi, which is around $300 dues. So believe it or not, the DeWalt is actually cheaper than the Ryobi. And I really wanted to see why, like the Ryobi actually performed really well last time, despite being a Ryobi. But this one, yeah, I just was like really interested to see how it goes. And also I'm wondering why it is so cheap. It's not like DeWalt is just making junk, because they do have a few drop motor rotary hammers. So, more or less the same tool, but just a different body configuration there. And substantially more expensive, maybe 40% more expensive. It's in the $400, the drop motor equivalent of this, and I really can't think why. So anyway, we're going to give this a good look today, and hopefully work out, if it's cheap, is it for a reason? Anyway, let's get to it. So first off, the first thing I noticed about this tool was obviously its shape. So it's a D handle, and I'm kind of wondering if D handles are going out of fashion. DeWalt is still making a new model, but like Milwaukee, I think, has stopped making theirs. They're just not as common, and that's a bit of a shame, because they are shaped like this because they're nice and comfy. So when you're drilling, your hand that you're pushing with is directly in line with the bit up here. So that means it's really nice and comfortable to use in your hand. It also gives you a good reach because it's a bit longer. And there's no real reason why it couldn't be any other shape. And in fact, there are a lot of rotary hammers of different shapes. So as long as it's got a motor connected to a hammer mechanism, gearbox in some kind of orientation, should all work out all right. And indeed, this one does. So this one is a bit simple. I guess we'll start with probably the worst feature in my opinion, is the flimsy depth rod retainer. So that thing fell off literally in my bag the first time I used it. So not exactly built tough there, DeWalt. These things, yeah, I just put them on there for my speed test, just because rely on the depth rod. But if you actually rely on the depth rod for your work, that's it's potentially a problem right there. Otherwise, the handle feels really cheap and plasticky. Nothing special about that at all. It's kind of just got this rough knurling, not really nice to hold. It is a 3-mode. Still does all the normal rotary hammer stuff. But one thing I noticed was it didn't have the sort of neutral mode for your chisel adjusting. So what you do, instead of having a separate mode, is you just put it in motor or drill mode, and then you can adjust your chisels like that. So that's interesting. In that case, I'm not sure why other brands make a big deal about having that sort of intermediate mode there. So there's no light as well. A bit weird, because that's kind of expected of tools nowadays, but yeah, we'll shave a bit off the cost. The big thing for me though is there's no vibration dampening at all. So if we look at this one's bigger brother, the DCH133, so there's a bigger drill, but it does have baffles going on here, just like many other rotary hammers will. This one has no vibration dampening at all, so it is a bit of a rough ride. Your hands do get a bit tired. The grip is just the standard DeWalt grip, and I don't know, I don't find that super comfy. I do prefer like the Milwaukee one, which is nice and neutral. I don't like all this sort of styling on there. I mean, you're just holding it, you don't need extra shit on there. If we move up to the top here, the chuck release, the chuck sleeve here, not the easiest to grab onto, but you know, that's potentially not really a problem. It's just not super fancy looking, just pretty cheaply finished. Yeah. So let's give her a whirl with the tacho and see how fast she revs. Stick her in drill mode. All right, so she sounds really fast, but just under 400, so 1390 RPM, so that's up there. What do they claim? They claim 1500, so yeah, just under. I mean, that's pretty typical though of tools. They very rarely meet the specs exactly, but 1400, it's a little bit fast for a rotary hammer. They don't need to turn that fast, and I think for some applications, you don't really want it to, in fact. So the revving of a rotary hammer isn't what removes the material like in a normal sort of drilling situation. What actually does the cutting of the material is the hammering. The turning really just removes the dust out of the hole, and that doesn't need to happen very fast. So, you know, it's not necessarily a good thing to rev really fast in a rotary hammer. I suspect it's actually just going to use up the battery a bit quicker, but you know, we'll see how that goes in later testing. So let's check the weight. I'll just pull the battery off, but one thing I did notice is this is really stiff. It's really well stuck on there. So if you're yanking it, watch out for this bloody handle, because I smashed my hand real good the other day. Fuck, it hurt. Anyway, so watch out for that kickback. All right, so she weighs 2.3 kilos. All right, so that's light. That is lighter than either the Milwaukee or the Ryobi. Yeah, really nice. All right, so it's probably enough yapping. Let's get to the testing. So the first test we got is the torque test. Same as last time, measuring the outward torque of a big screw that's been driven into a tree. Holy dooly, 38 Newton meters just about. Wow, that is more than the Milwaukee got. This thing's starting to look legit. Nice one, DeWalt. So, but you know, as we saw with the Ryobi last time, didn't have much torque, but it had plenty of drilling speed. So the next test is the drilling speed. Let's see how it does in there. But before we do, I just wanted to do it a bit of an aside here, and I have a hypothesis about how this one's going to do. I think this is going to be the fastest driller. Because out of all the rotary hammers I've got, it actually has the fastest impact energy per minute. And I'm doing this. I'm trying to find a way of predicting what the rotary hammer's performance is going to be like, especially in hard rock. And I think what really is going to drive its drilling performance is going to be the impact energy times the impact rate. And so we've ended up, this particular one, it's got 2.6 joules of impact energy, which is pretty high. I think that's higher than the Milwaukee as well. And 5,500 beats per minute impact rate. So that equals an impact energy of around 14,000 per minute, 14,000 joules. And yeah, you know, just let me know what you reckon about that in the comments. I just sort of came up with this measure because I want a nice way of, you know, comparing these things. Just a simple stat, because they have a lot of different specs, these things. So, you know, I'm not sure if joules per minute is really the best way to do it. It's the best one I've got right now, but you know, it does sound a lot like joules per second, which is watts, which is, you know, technically how you measure power. But watts doesn't really seem like the right measure for this sort of thing, because this energy transfer is, I guess it's non-linear. It's really low duty cycle, like it's bop, 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 bop. It's not like a nice, you know, RF power transfer with a high duty cycle that you would usually use for watts. So anyway, let us know what you reckon about that in the comments if you got an opinion. And yeah, anyway, enough yapping. Let's see how she goes in the drill test. Bugging me dead, 5.5 seconds. Oh man, this thing is a beast. All right, so compared to the Milwaukee, it's 2 seconds. It's got 2 seconds on the Milwaukee. Wow. Oh man, I can't believe this thing. She's doing really nice. All right, so let's take a look at our last test for today, which is the max capacity. So once again, we get the big 26 mil drill bit. So that's about an inch. If you don't speak millimeters, 26 millimeters is just a bit bigger than an inch. So, you know, in general, I just call this a 1 inch drill. All the other drills of this kind of size, you know, that's sort of medium range, you could call them a 1 inch drill too. So anyway, let's see how she does with the maximum capacity. All right, so with the big max capacity, the little yellow devil, she did better yet again. So a little bit faster than Ryobi and a fair bit faster than the Milwaukee in the max capacity test. So wow, I gotta say, I'm really impressed. This little thing is an absolute cracker. This is my first real taste of DeWalt tools, and I gotta say, super impressed. I really can't believe that this thing is not only cheaper and lighter than the Milwaukee and even the Ryobi, it outperforms them. I had my doubts about this thing even being a proper 26 millimeter rotary hammer, but it beat the competition in all counts, and I cannot believe this sells for so little. Now, one thing I really want to find out in future is why is this one so much cheaper than the other DeWalt rotary hammers, even the one with the, you know, more or less same specs? That I just do not understand. But I gotta say, yeah, super impressed here. If you want to go out and get yourself one of these, I definitely recommend it, but you got to get the 133. So I've seen that they have just released a new version, which is only 22 millimeters. So that's the 033. If you want this one, which has really blown the socks off the Milwaukee, I guess the Ryobi, make sure you get the 133, because the other one will not be as good as this. It'll be cheaper, but it won't be as good. So anyway, I guess that's it for me. Enough yapping. Bloody hell. Once again, I can't believe it, DeWalt. You've blown my bloody mind. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll scratch yous later. So this is the smallest rotary hammer of DeWalt's that I could actually get in Australia. They have released a couple of smaller ones, which I'm pretty keen to try out, but they're not going to be here for, I don't know, a while yet. And I think the reason is that to function correctly here in the Down Underverse, all these tools need to actually be inverted, tenet style, which, you know, takes a bit of time. And in fact, Christopher Nolan got the idea for that film from our import procedures.